Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story with life stories. What happens when life takes an unexpected turn? Lauren Mitchell spent years dreaming of motherhood, only to have that dream shattered. But just when she thought all hope was lost, fate brought her an unexpected gift, a baby girl in need of love. Forced to make a life-changing decision, Lauren had to choose between holding onto the past or embracing a future she never imagined. Would she find the strength to rebuild her life? Stay with us to discover a powerful story of love, resilience, and the true meaning of family. Subscribe now for more inspiring life stories. The rain drummed softly against the windowpane of Dr. Meyer's office. A rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound that should have been soothing. But as I sat in the stiff leather chair, hands clenched around the armrests, I felt anything but calm. I had been here before, too many times to count. Always with the same quiet hope. The same unspoken prayer. Please, let this be the answer. Let this be the time. Dr. Myers folded her hands on the desk and looked at me with the kind of sympathy I had grown to despise. I already knew what she was going to say before the words even left her lips. I'm sorry, Lauren. We've exhausted all options. Your condition is permanent. You won't be able to conceive. There it was. The final verdict. A strange kind of silence filled the space between us. Heavy and suffocating. I had prepared myself for this moment. Convinced myself that I was ready to hear it. But nothing could have truly prepared me for the way those words landed. The way they turned something I had feared into an unchangeable reality. Are you sure? My voice was barely a whisper. But I already knew the answer. Dr. Myers reached across the desk and took my trembling hand. Lauren, I know how much this means to you. I know how hard you fought. But continuing would only cause you more pain, physically and emotionally. Pain without hope of success. I nodded, though it felt mechanical, like my body was moving without my mind's permission. My thoughts were already drifting elsewhere, to the nursery at home. The room we had painted in soft yellow. The crib that had never held a baby. The changing table that had never been used. 2 years ago, when Ethan and I first started trying, I had imagined our future so clearly. I had pictured us standing over that crib, watching over our child, whispering lullabies in the dark. But that future was never meant to be. Thank you for everything, I managed, reaching for my purse. I should go. My husband will be waiting for an update. But that wasn't entirely true. Ethan was on a business trip in Chicago, and I had been relieved. In a way, to have this appointment alone. To not have to witness the disappointment in his eyes. I walked out of the clinic in a daze. The rain now a steady downpour. On the drive home, I passed Ridgewood Park, a place I had avoided for years. But today, I took a different route. Today, I forced myself to look. Mothers pushing strollers down tree-lined paths. Toddlers squealing on the swings. A young woman kneeling in front of a little girl, wiping ice cream from her chin. Laughing. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I watched for too long. The car idling at the stop sign until a horn behind me jolted me back to reality. This is it, I thought. This is what acceptance feels like. Like driving past a life you'll never have and finally admitting it to yourself. At home, I didn't hesitate. I walked straight to the nursery and sat down in the rocking chair. My hands traced the stuffed elephant Ethan had bought for good luck. Back when we had still believed. Back when we had thought love and determination would be enough. The tears came then, slow at first, then unstoppable. Not the kind of tears I had cried before, the hopeful ones that came after another failed treatment. When I would whisper to myself, next time, it will work. No, these were different. These were the tears of an ending. The tears of truly letting go. I might have stayed there for hours if not for the shrill ring of my phone. Cutting through the grief. For a moment, I almost ignored it, but after years of hoping for miracle calls from doctors, my instinct was always to pick up. Hello? Is this Lauren Mitchell? The voice on the other end was unfamiliar. Calm but urgent. Yes, this is she. This is St. Joseph's Hospital. You're listed as the emergency contact for Madison Carter. The name sent a jolt through me. Maddie, my best friend. The one person who had been my rock through every heartbreak. The wild, free-spirited force of nature who had once been my partner in crime through college and beyond. What happened? I asked, already standing, already reaching for my keys. There's been an accident. Miss Carter was brought in about an hour ago. She's in critical condition. The voice hesitated. She's asking for you. She's very insistent about seeing you right away. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I said, already moving. The drive to the hospital was a blur. My own grief took a backseat, replaced by something sharper, something far worse, fear. Maddie, the best friend who had always been invincible to me. The woman who had only recently become a mother herself. I had barely seen her in the past few months. Not as much as I should have. After Lily was born, Maddie had withdrawn, and I had assumed it was the exhaustion of new motherhood. It had stung when she declined my offers to help. But I had let it go, thinking she just needed space. Now, I was terrified I would lose her without ever understanding why she had pulled away. When I arrived at the hospital, a nurse led me through the long, sterile corridors of the ICU. My mind raced with questions, with possibilities, but nothing could have prepared me for the sight of her, Maddie. Lying in that hospital bed, pale and fragile, surrounded by the cold hum of machines keeping her alive. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Maddie, I whispered, stepping closer. I'm here. Her eyes fluttered open, and when they met mine, the ghost of a smile crossed her face. You came. Of course, I came, I said, taking her hand, careful not to disturb the IV. What happened? Drunk driver, she breathed. Her voice was so weak. Hit my side of the car. Lily wasn't with me. She's at the sitters. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. The way she was looking at me. The urgency in her expression, it was more than pain. It was desperation. Listen to me, she said, gripping my hand with surprising strength. I need you to promise me something. A chill settled in my stomach. Anything. Maddie's eyes filled with tears. Lily, take care of my Lily. I froze. Maddie's parents had disowned her when she decided to keep the baby. She had no family left. Just me. You're the only one I trust. She whispered, please, Lauren, promise me. I looked at my best friend, this woman who had been there for me through everything, and I knew. I already loved Lily. I just hadn't realized until now that she was meant to be mine. With tears streaming down my face, I squeezed Maddie's hand. I promise. Maddie's fingers tightened around mine. Her grip weaker than I wanted to admit. Her breathing was labored, but her eyes burned with determination. She was fighting against the inevitable. Against time itself. Just long enough to make sure I heard her. Just long enough to make sure I understood. I swallowed against the lump in my throat, shaking my head slightly. Maddie, don't talk like that. The doctors. She gave me a look. The same one she used to give me in college whenever I tried to argue against something she knew to be true. Lauren, she whispered, her voice breaking. They told me, internal bleeding. They can't stop it. I don't have much time. No, I refused to believe it. Maddie squeezed my hand, her eyes glassy. Lily can't go into the system. She needs you. A sob caught in my throat. I don't know if I can. You can, she interrupted, her tone fierce despite how frail she was. You were always meant to be a mother. Lauren, even when life didn't make it easy. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. That I wasn't ready. That I wasn't enough. But deep down, beneath the fear, beneath the grief threatening to swallow me whole, I knew she was right. Maddie's breathing grew shallower, and she blinked slowly, fighting to stay awake. I already made it legal. She murmured, named you as her guardian. Papers, in my apartment. Top drawer of my desk. Lawyer's card is with them. She had planned this. Even before today, she had made this choice. She had always known. My mind raced, thinking of Ethan, of what this would mean, of how my life was shifting beneath me in a way I hadn't expected. But none of it mattered. Not really. Not when Maddie was looking at me with such raw desperation. With such certainty. I promise. I whispered. I'll take care of Lily. I'll love her like she's my own. Relief softened Maddie's features. Her shoulders sagged slightly, as if the weight of the world had just been lifted. She's yours now, she murmured. Tell her about me someday. Tell her how much I love her. I nodded, unable to speak. Maddie's gaze drifted toward the window, where the golden light of the setting sun spilled into the sterile hospital room. A small, tired smile touched her lips. I always loved sunsets, she murmured. Seems right, somehow. I followed her gaze, watching the way the light stretched across the room, as if reaching for her. A terrible, gut-wrenching realization settled over me. The sun was setting for Maddie. Her breaths became more labored, more uneven. I gripped her hand, my chest tightening. Maddie? Her eyes fluttered closed. A long pause. Then, a final exhale. Stillness. I sat there, holding her hand long after she was gone. And for the first time in my life, I understood what true heartbreak felt like. The hospital room felt impossibly quiet. The machines still beeped softly. But Maddie was gone. I kept holding her hand, unwilling to let go, as if my grip could somehow pull her back. But death had taken her gently, like the setting sun she had loved so much. A kind-faced nurse eventually stepped in, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. Take all the time you need, she whispered, before retreating. But time had already run out. Somewhere beyond this room, Lily was waiting. The thought hit me like a lightning bolt, shaking me out of my trance. I wiped my tears and forced myself to stand, though my legs felt unsteady. A social worker led me to a quiet office, explaining the legalities, the transition, what would come next. It was all a blur. Maddie had done everything she could to protect her daughter. The guardianship papers were real. The process could begin immediately. Would you like to pick her up tomorrow morning? The social worker asked gently. Or do you need more time? Tomorrow. Lily would need a place to sleep. She would need clothes, formula, diapers. She would need me. I swallowed hard, my voice steadier than I felt. Tomorrow morning. I barely remembered the drive home. My hands trembled on the wheel. My mind a whirlwind of grief, fear, and something else. Something unexpected. Determination. This was happening. I was bringing home a baby. When I stepped into my house, the stillness wrapped around me like a suffocating fog. I hadn't told Ethan yet. He was still in Chicago, unaware that by the time he returned, our lives would have completely changed. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. My fingers hovered over his name. How would he react? Would he understand? Taking a deep breath, I dialed. He answered on the fourth ring. The background noise of a restaurant humming through the line. Hey, you. I was just about to call. How did it go with Dr. Myers? For a second, I almost forgot. The diagnosis, the infertility, the news that had shattered the life I thought I wanted. But now, something bigger had taken its place. Ethan, I said, my voice hesitant. Something happened today. The conversation that followed unraveled faster than I expected. I told him everything, the accident, Maddie's last wish, my promise. You what? His voice was sharp, edged with disbelief. I promised her. Ethan, Maddie made me Lily's legal guardian. She has no one else. You agreed to take someone else's baby without even calling me first? My stomach tightened. She was dying. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to say you needed to talk to your husband. The words landed like a slap. I gripped the phone, my heart pounding. I'll be home in 3 days. He said stiffly. We'll talk then. The line went dead. And in that silence, I realized, I already knew where this was heading. 1 year later, I stood in our small but cozy apartment, watching as Lily, now 2 years old, toddled around the living room. Her laughter filling the space that once felt so empty. She was growing up fast, too fast. Josh was sitting on the floor with her, holding out a stuffed elephant. The same one he had given her months ago. What does the elephant say? He asked playfully. Lily grinned, scrunching up her tiny nose. Toot toot. Josh burst into laughter, shaking his head. Close enough. I leaned against the doorframe, watching them, my heart full. So much had changed in a year. Ethan had become nothing more than a distant memory, a lesson in what love shouldn't be. The divorce was finalized, and though he had reached out once, I had already moved on, not just from him, but from the idea that my happiness depended on the life I had once planned. Instead, I had built something better. Josh had become more than just Lily's biological father, he had become family. What started as careful co-parenting had grown into something deeper. Something unspoken but undeniable. He was patient, kind, and he loved Lily with his whole heart. And maybe, just maybe, he loved me too. As I walked over and sat beside them, Lily climbed into my lap, curling up against me with a contented sigh. Josh met my eyes, his expression soft. We're doing okay, aren't we? I smiled, pressing a kiss to Lily's soft curls. We're doing more than okay. Because sometimes, the family you're meant to have isn't the one you planned. It's the one that finds you when you're brave enough to open your heart again. Subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt life stories.